The very cornerstone of the constitutional republic that is the United States of America, enumerating the inalienable rights which make us a free people, is the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, and the first of 10 amendments known as the Bill of Rights. Many rights are included in the Bill of Rights, which were added to the original Constitution 4 years after it was ratified. The right to keep and bear arms, due process, a speedy trial, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, cruel and unusual punishment. But none are more crucial than the 5 fundamental rights outlined in the First Amendment. I'm Tim Donner with 5 facts about freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition in America, rights which are absolute and cannot be suspended even during national emergencies. Fact 1. The constitutional right to free speech is a uniquely American concept. Many countries in the world have no constitution at all, or a weak one. But even among those nations with constitutions, none have an absolute right to free speech. Only in America are citizens constitutionally protected from prosecution for saying something objectionable about the government or what public officials deem to be public sensibilities. Various courts, including the United States Supreme Court, have struggled to determine what types of speech are protected. Legally, material labeled as obscene has historically been excluded from First Amendment protection, for example, but deciding what qualifies as obscene has been problematic. Speech-provoking actions that would harm others, true incitement and/or threats, is also not protected. But determining what words have qualified as true incitement has been decided on a case-by-case basis. Fact 2. Freedom of religion is based on historical persecution of religious minorities. From the flight of Puritans and Pilgrims on the Mayflower in the 17th century to that of Jewish people fleeing Nazi oppression in the 20th century, America has always served as a refuge for those in religious minorities who were persecuted in their native lands. The basis for freedom of religion was the fact that in colonial days, pre-Constitution, almost all of the 13 colonies had established their own official religion, some Protestant, some Catholic, or Quaker. The right to freely worship and express one's religious views, and the clear statement in the First Amendment that there would be no religious test applied to those seeking public office, nor the establishment of a single national religion, such as with the Anglican Church in England, the Eastern Orthodox Church in Greece, or Islam in many Middle Eastern countries, was thus critical to the cohesion of the newly formed union. Fact 3. Freedom of the press was designed to hold America's political class accountable. The framers of the Constitution considered freedom of what came to be known as the Fourth Estate, the right to report news or express opinion free of censorship from the government, one of the great bulwarks of liberty. The framers understood that, given free rein to do as they pleased, absent independent investigation, America's political class could not be held truly accountable to the people who elected them. The establishment of a free press, now adopted by most of the Western world and many nations beyond, was a groundbreaking freedom at the time. Up to then, rulers could easily take actions against their opponents and enemies without fear of exposure in media ultimately controlled by the state. Fact 4. Freedom of peaceful assembly guarantees the right to associate with whomever you please. The right of Americans to come together and collectively express, promote, pursue, and defend their collective or shared ideas is fundamental to our individual liberty. It was the framers' response to the many real and petty tyrants scattered throughout history who would suppress opposition by refusing to allow people to assemble together publicly or privately. Indeed, freedom of assembly is often used in the context of the right to protest, while the related term, freedom of association, is generally interpreted to mean the absolute right to both peaceably assemble and join any sort of social, economic, political, or religious association or organization without fear of reprisal by the state. And that brings us to fact 5. The right to petition the government assures that Americans can respond to unjust actions by the state. The framers of the Constitution understood that any government which cannot be held legally and directly accountable by its citizens is not a truly free nation. Thus, the right to petition means that Americans can sign a petition or file a legal action against the government. To understand the fullness and significance of the First Amendment in the Constitution's Bill of Rights, all you need do is consider what your life and the life of this nation would be like if you were not able to speak freely, associate with whomever you choose, worship as you please, know what public officials are doing with their immense power and your tax money, or pursue legal action against the government. We would be living in a very different country.